And at the time I thought, that is going to be so pretty. Once I started making these, I thought, what in the world was I thinking? This is old and repetitive, and not even you like this much repetition. Hello. Today I'm going to show you some things I have recycled. And by recycled, I mean some are things that are trash that I've turned into treasure. Not really, but that's what we're going to say. And the other things I've recycled are things that I don't want to finish, so I've turned them into other things. I'm kind of pleased with myself because I think I've done a decent enough job. Also, I'm going to talk to you about the flowers that I've asked y'all for in my last video because I realized I didn't do a really good job of explaining that at all. I even wrote something to kind of clarify things, and even that was not good at all because some of y'all have brought up things to me that I didn't think about, because that's the norm for me, is I get an idea and I just go with it and then I tweak it along the way. But this time I'm asking y'all to help me, so I need to do a better job because y'all are going to have questions and I need to have better answers and be better prepared. I'm going to try to clarify that, but it's going to be at the end of this video, so stick around and then you'll hear me explaining it a tad better. Fingers crossed I do that, because there's a good chance I won't do that, but I'm going to try. To start off, I was going to show you some things that I've been actually holding on in my garage for over a year because I had intended to do this. And finally, I can do it because I really am in a crochet not mood. I've lost my crojo. Especially when it comes to making amigurumi, I am struggling. I think I do this every summer. The past two, I really remember doing this, and I think it's because my kids are home. And it's not like we're doing a lot because they don't really want to do much. They're kind of sluggy. Do y'all have sluggy children? Mine are sluggy. They want me to either think of every activity or any activity I suggest they think is terrible. We have a pool. I've suggested to go swim. That's a terrible idea for some reason. I don't understand them. They don't really want to do a lot, but they're here all the time. And so it's hard for me to get things done because inevitably they need me to help them remain slugs. It's a lot more work than anybody could have imagined. At least it's a lot more work than I have imagined for myself. That has kept me from making any amigurumi because I can't focus long enough to get anything done. But I thought now was the time because I've had this stuff and I want to get it gone. Because in the summer I'd purge a lot of things. And right now we're going room by room and we're purging things. And these really needed to get out of my garage because they're garbage. But I've turned them into not garbage. The first couple of things I did are turning trash into treasure. I've had these two containers in my garage for around a year-ish. Zach is a little tired of seeing them because he's offered to recycle them. I was like, no, I have a plan for that. He's been hearing that for a while now. So I think he's really glad that now they are finally out of the planning stage and into the done stage. The first one is using this container. Now this is my Vital Proteins container. It's a powder that I put in my coffee in the morning that's supposedly supposed to help my skin, hair, and nails. It really has helped keep my hair from falling out like it was because menopause is destroying me slowly. But surely it is. This stuff has helped a little bit. So I have kept this can because I thought this is a perfect can to hold. What do you think? Yarn? Yes, yarn. For instance, this, it's a big ball. It fits in my container. I had Zach drill some holes here in the top. In retrospect, I think I'm just gonna cut out this whole little circle right here. It'll just be easier than having to thread yarn through these little holes because it's gonna get on my nerves. I can already tell it because it just is. I can do it like this if I wanted to, and if I wanted to have a couple of colors, this thing is big enough to hold a couple of colors. Also, I wanted to make this because I like to go outside in the mornings and be in my lovely new backyard that we've kind of almost finished, and it's really nice, except this one thing. This year in Texas, there's an infestation of these worms. They're called web worms, and they go up in your tree and they kill the branch that they're on, and they keep moving all over the tree, and they can kill it, but most likely they're not going to. They're just going to be a really ugly nuisance until fall and they die. Fall is still several months away when they're going to die. Until then, they're on the ceiling in my porch and they're falling down on my stuff. And I don't like that. So I thought a can like this will protect my yarn from these fallen worms because it's nasty. That is why I thought let's keep the yarn as safe as we can by putting it in something like this. But I bet you're thinking, Cindy, that is so plain. Couldn't you do something to zhuzh it up? You should know. I would not ever leave white space like this white. Of course I zhuzhed it. Of course I did. Really? Did y'all doubt my abilities? You should know better. I made this all up along the way. I really mean that. I made it all up as I was going along, and it's a little too big. This is We Crochet Dishy Cotton, and because it's cotton, I thought, well, let me wash it and it'll shrink up some. Because Dishy Cotton is such a good cotton, it didn't shrink really. It's still a little big. Now I could glue this on here, but I don't want to because I really foresee this can, which we are now calling I planned this, just wait. A skeiny cane can. It has a name. Of course it does. I could glue this on here and it would be fine, but what if I want to wash this? What if my skeiny cane can needs a wardrobe change? What if? So I need to have the freedom to change its wardrobe with the seasons, like we all like to do. This can is no different. I had some keychains and I cut off the little chainy chains on there and I just took the circle and I sewed that in, and then I had these other things that are something like a keychain something. I don't know. I sewed those on to my strap here. Now my strap, because I wanted it to be the same kind of stitch all the way across, when I finished one row, instead of turning and going back, I fastened off and then I added the new color. Because that way it gives it a more uniform look. Now I can take my skeiny cane can with me. I'm probably not going to do that. I just want y'all to know that I am not a person that carries my yarn in a plastic can in public. That's not saying it's a bad thing. It's just saying that I'm not going to do it because I don't want to answer people's questions. I know y'all probably think I'm an extrovert. Y'all think with this kind of personality, I love going out and doing a lot of things. That's a no. I'm an introvert. Oh my goodness, so much of that. If I were to take this out in public, I know people are going to ask me, what is that? And then I'm going to have to talk and they're going to hear me and they're going to think, oh my gosh, she's so weird. They're not wrong, but I don't want to deal with that awkwardness, you know? This skeiny cane can is going to be staying at home, making a fashion statement here with me. Now my next Trash to Treasure creation, this one I'm really proud of. I'm not lying. This one, really and truly, I'm so proud of this one. It's a yarn and melon bowl because it holds yarn and it looks like a watermelon. This is a Cascade dishwasher detergent tab container. And I turned it into a container to hold yarn. And I'm really very pleased with it. I can lock it up just like that, and when them webworms decide to fall out of the ceiling, I can just close this up and I can wash it off. Isn't that nice? I was thinking I could crochet something to hold this container. But y'all, we can't crochet something for everything. Sometimes we just have to say, put the hook down. Put it down. This is not the time. This was not the time for this guy. It needed to be different to accentuate the crochet. And that's what this is. I've made it a watermelon container for yarn. This is vinyl that I have stuck on here and it's a really pitiful job. The label that's on this is painted on already under here, so I couldn't remove it. I thought vinyl. Vinyl's the answer because I had a Cricut. I still have vinyl. I haven't used my Cricut in 6 years. It needed a major update and I don't have anywhere really to plug it in to be able to use it functionally in here. These little seeds, I cut those all out by hand. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah, old school right here. I don't really like my placement for most of those. I keep like seeing things and I'm like, oh, I'm trying not to be perfectionisty. I'm trying real hard to just be okay with this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but there's a strong possibility I'm going to be moving some of these seeds at a later point in time to make them go with my feng shui a little bit better because I have problems. I think it's really cute. Nobody's going to notice all the bubbles. They're going to see it has seeds and it's a watermelon first, and then you're going to open it up with a big surprise and it's going to have yarn and a hook and scissors. Here, and stitch markers all in here. And it's perfect because I also love the Golden Girls. Sophia might be my spirit animal. I love that woman. Sophia and Rose. Really and truly, those two weird kind of stories from all over the place and a little bit grouchy. That's me. I'm Sophia and Rose. Strange combination. I know, but it's true. But I added this little wooden beaded handle. These are beads that I didn't know what in the world I was going to do with them, that I've just had in here. And so I put them on some wire, and I had Zach drill holes here on the side, and so I put the wire in there. It's nice and stable, and then I can carry it around like a little old woman going outside by the pool to play with my yarn and watch my children not play in the pool. It's wonderful for that. Also, y'all, I hate watermelon. I know that's going to upset some people, but I really hate it. I think it's really a beautiful fruit to look at, to taste it. No, I don't like it at all. This was a lot of fun to make and turn into this, and I know Zach is going to be so happy that it's out of our garage now. For my next recycle, I'm not actually turning some sort of trash into treasure. I'm taking one of my old things of crochet and repurposing it because I know I'm not going to finish it ever. Never. I never want to do this again, and it's granny squares. I took the granny squares that I'd made for a blanket that I've never finished, and I have used them for other things. Now, I still have about 8 left. I've used over 20. I think that's pretty impressive. These were going to be for a blanket that had gradient colored dots, kind of like a rainbow all over it. And at the time, I thought, that is going to be so pretty. Once I started making these, I thought, what in the world was I thinking? This is old and repetitive, and not even you like this much repetition. That is so right. Not even me liked that much repetition. So I'm taking some of those pieces that I had finished and I've turned them into other things. And since we're on a bowl theme, I made another yarn bowl or a basket for other stuff. It doesn't have to be for yarn. I was wanting to show you different ways to zhuzh. That's the word for this episode, zhuzh. Could also be a drinking game. How many times I'm going to say it? Zhuzh. That was just a bonus for fun. If you're drinking, go ahead and go get a drink and you can rewatch this and then take a sip. I wanted to show you some ways you could take like an old boring granny square and zhuzh it, you're welcome, for something else. So I surface crocheted around each of the circles because the actual circle has 3 layers. I love the way it kind of made every little section a little bit colorful. They're all a little different. I didn't mess with this one on the bottom because it's on the bottom. We don't need to mess with things on the bottom. Leave it alone. To make it kind of stable, I used this plastic mesh, which I love this stuff. Any of y'all from the 80s, do y'all remember all the tissue paper covers with this stuff and they'd make all kinds of pretty designs and stuff? Man, I love that. I'd totally do that again. That might be why I have some of this, like 6 sheets of it here. I just haven't done anything with it yet, but don't put it past me. That's all I'm saying. This stuff is amazing, but I sewed each of my granny squares onto a square of this, and then I sewed them all together to make a nice little basket with a handle. But I thought this was a nice use of my granny squares. I'm pretty impressed with myself. You're going to notice I'm pretty impressed with myself a lot in this video. I apologize, but I am. I was like, Cindy, your mind is on point. Kind of, except when it's not. I didn't necessarily think of all these things on my own. I did go to Pinterest for inspiration, but everything I did with my squares was my own. I didn't use anybody else's patterns. This was all Cindy. That can be good and bad. This isn't my favorite thing that I've done. It's decent. And it's this granny square bag. I did go online and find how you lay the squares out to get this pattern. And then to zhuzh my squares up this time, I made applique flowers and I sewed them all on here. And then I just kept tying in the same colors over and over again. And then I used those to make the handles for this. My handles are round and a little squirrely. My mother had this kind of weird, thick, I don't know what it is. It's like this tubular yarn that she bought thinking one day she was going to learn how to use that. She didn't learn how to use that. So I took some of it and I stuffed it in here in my handle and sewed it together. And that's what made this round. This yarn is Red Heart Super Saver yarn, and I did block it. I was hoping maybe that would make it a little bit softer because I actually soaked it in water with some soap, but it's still stiff. It needs more work to make it actually soft, to get whatever that is that Red Heart is treated with, that roughness, off. The nice thing about that is it makes it a very sturdy yarn for something like this. The reason there's a line connecting each of them, like it's kind of raised, and that's because I slip stitch all of these together. If you just sew it normally, you don't get this raised part, but I kind of like this slip stitch look. I like the delineation. It's not a big word. I like the delineation of the squares this way. You don't have to do it that way. You can just do it with a needle and thread and you won't end up with that ridge like that. Or if you do a continuous square. I didn't do that because I didn't do that. It was harder and more tedious. That's how I like to go. Suffer. But overall, I think it turned out really cute. Now here's the last thing I made. It is like a little wall hanging that I am going to put in my daughter's room. Her room is turquoise and pinks and purples and bright colors. Fortunately, because of that, she has gravitated towards my color palette. That makes me so proud. It really does. But these are little pockets that I sew down here. What I tried to do to make these different than the first granny square was I added another round to the outside in a different color. And I wanted them to all kind of tie together with that new round. Then my daughter chose some buttons and made kind of like flowers on each of these. They turned out real cute. She did a good job. This is really thick. And the reason it's really thick is I was trying to get rid of yarn. I was really trying hard to get rid of yarn. And I did get rid of some. And I have this yarn that was gifted to me and I honestly have no idea what the yarn is. But it's really thin and it's kind of white and purple and I really like it, but it's so thin I don't know what to do with it. So I used 2 balls of that with some of my regular paint box worsted Aran yarn. This is 3 strands of yarn, so it'd be thick. This is gonna hold stuff. I made this strong. She is gonna be able to fill this sucker up. I felt good getting rid of some of these darn squares and making them look better than they looked just by themselves, because that was a really bad decision I made. It might look good from afar. Up close, but at least these squares aren't in a box somewhere just sitting there taking up space. They are sitting out on the counter taking up space. The last thing I made this week, I actually put it on my Instagram. I know, I remembered to post something. Yay, Cindy. It's this dragonfly. This is called crochet quilling. And it's similar to like paper quilling, if y'all know what that is, where you wrap paper around round things and then you slowly build and create pictures. Same thing here. You're crocheting short strips and then you are slowly wrapping them around each other. So the strips start to grow and grow and grow, and then you sew them all together and create something. The only thing that's really challenging about this is you need to make sure you're using a sharp needle when you're trying to sew in everything. In the end, I did also use some glue in this to really kind of hold it together and to stiffen up this tail a little bit. That's the only thing that's really hard, is at the end, putting it all together like this. It does take a little finesse. If you don't have finesse, you can have snoop and cussing. It helps too. I think these would be so cute for like wall hangings, or do you remember there used to be pot holders in the 70s and 80s that were really thick like this, like trivets, and then you set your stuff on top if you use cotton. These are really awesome for that. And this pattern is from SimpleJoysMakingToys, and she has all kinds of things in her Etsy store. She has butterfly, bees, flowers. She's even done some garlands. She has this really cool cactus, and it's not necessarily quilling, but it's a really cool design that I just think is so neat. Quite comparable to Carl back there. Go check her stuff out because it's really neat if you've never done something like this. In her patterns, she creates them to be like a mindfulness activity. So you do a couple a day, and each day there's a positive thought or a prayer for you to do while you're making them, if that is something that you're into. I have no control, so I did them all at once because that's how I roll. 2 weeks ago, I asked y'all for help on making flowers. After making that video, I realized I didn't give y'all all the information for making the flowers. Here I am to try one more time to tell y'all things you can do with these flowers. They can be flat, or 3D, I need both. Feel free to leave the yarn ends. That way I can attach it. However, if you've already sent in your flowers and they don't have the yarn ends, no worries, I got you, it's fine. Please no stems because they're gonna be put flat on whatever I'm doing with them. They can have leaves, but leaves are not necessary, and leaves can even be separate. But leaves are not necessary, but it's fine if they are there. When thinking about the materials you want to use, acrylic or cotton are fine. I'd probably stay away from wool simply because some people might have a wool allergy, and also cotton and acrylic are just durable yarns and they will probably hold up the best. What I can tell you about what I am planning on making, it is for a charity. These will not be staying with me. I am going to be making something that will be auctioned off. My mother and my stepdad passed away. He was also totally blind. They created a charity for blind children in the state of Texas. It's called All Blind Children of Texas. Every year they have a silent auction, and their silent auction is coming up soon to help raise funds because blind children in Texas start receiving services for special education at birth. But blind children are different than a lot of special education populations because they not only need to learn all the academics that everybody else needs to learn, but there's a whole other curriculum that blind children need to know about. And it's basically living. It's learning how to fold clothes, do laundry, cook, doing all of these things safely so that they don't get hurt, but they can lead independent lives. But in the state of Texas, a lot of funding for special ed programs has been cut. It truly affects their future. So my mom and my stepdad created this program to help supplement children in the state of Texas have opportunities that maybe they wouldn't normally have. They need money to be able to do that. I was wanting to use all of your beautiful flowers to create something for the silent auction. I'm not going to tell y'all specifics about what I have in mind because it may change as I see what y'all send in. I have already received these from Krista down in Austin. Thank you so much, Krista. These are perfect. She left the yarn ends without me even saying anything. She's evidently really smart. Smarter than me when I told you to make me flowers and send them here. She already kind of knew a good way to do that. Thank you so much, Krista. I hope that helped out with the flowers and answered any other questions. I'm so sorry I did such a bad job at explaining that. I'm not picky. If that helps, I will make whatever you send in work. It will be so neat that people from all over the world help to create something for blind and visually impaired children here in the state of Texas. I appreciate y'all for taking the time to make this a really special project to me. Thank y'all so much. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time here on the Rumi Mill. Bye!